Hello and welcome to this video. This video is meant to illustrate to you how applications work basically. For example, your phone application. What happens when the phone application asks you to type in a person's name, type in a person's first name, last name, and a person's number, and some other details? What does the phone application do to these details? So this is just a very simple example. This application is going to run in the console. Everything is going to happen in the console. So we just run you through how it works. So we will regard this as a project, and as a result, you're going to create a folder here in your cohort 2 directory, and then we'll take it from there. So we start with mkdir, which means make directory. We will call this contacts. That's going to be the name of our project folder. We quickly take a look at this subdirectory list and find that we have a folder called contacts already in it. Now we need to navigate into contacts. All right, in contacts, we will create our project file, which we will call contacts.py. We will use this command type null contacts.py. All right, you can view the directory list to see if it's there. Definitely it is there. You can open your file with Visual Studio Code contacts.py, and then we can start the project. All right, so this is what we have, contacts.py, an empty file. So our project is basically going to allow a user to type in a person's details to be saved, the person's contact details. Basically, the first name, last name, and the person's phone number. And these contacts will be saved, these details will be saved in a file. So what we're going to do, first thing we're going to do is we're going to define a function. Use the def keyword. We're going to define a function called contact underscore saver. A function will not take any parameters. A function won't take any parameters. All right, so this is the function that is going to help us collect the user data and then store the data somewhere. So what we want to do inside of this function is we want to print a bunch of information that the user can read when the application starts. So we're going to say contact saver, that's the name of the application, and then some more information. This application allows you to save your contacts. All right, and then we want to print something else at the bottom here, just for the sake of organization or something like that. Let the application look a little bit organized, decent, not cluttered with lines too close to each other. All right, so we will very quickly invoke a function here so that we can see how it's going to look like first. All right, let's return to command prompt py contacts.py. Hit enter, and here this is how the application is going to look like when it starts. Contact saver. This application allows you to save your contact, and then we have lots of dashes and lots of spaces. All right, so our application, is being designed gradually. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to keep the application running, and then the user can decide when he or she wants the application to stop, or whatever he or she wants to do with the application. So to be able to do this, we will be using a while loop to keep the application running. We will use a while loop to keep the application running. So this is what we're going to have. We're going to have while true. All right, while true, the application is going to keep running. And we won't just do this. We also need to be able to determine how we want, when we want the application to stop, and all of that. So to be able to do that, we will define a variable that is going to collect input. All right, so we are defining a variable that's going to allow the user to type input that shows his or her decision to keep using the application or to exit. We will call this variable options, and then in it we will use the input function to require the user to type in something that will help them decide to keep using the application or to exit. So we're going to say enter X to exit the application, or S to save a contact. Okay, so this is what we're going to have, and then it's just going to be here like this. And then we are going to check for what the user enters. That's what's going to keep the application running or allow the application to exit. We're going to check for what the user enter. We are going to check if the user enters X or the user enters S to determine if the application is going to keep running or the application is going to exit. So we will use an if statement. Say if options, if the value of options, if what the user provides is equal to, if it's equal to X, what happens? Break. So the application is going to stop running if the option that the user types is equal to X. Now, what if the user does not type X? Elif options is equal to S, which means save, and then we can do other things. So let's see how this is going to work very quickly as well. I'm going to quickly add something here. Print exiting application. That is when the user types X. And if the user's option is S, then we'll print go ahead to save your contacts. All right, go ahead to save your contacts. So let's see how this is going to play out if we run this application again. We've added some more. So let's see what happens. Pi contacts.py. So what we have is contact saver. This application allows you to save your contact. Enter X to exit the application or S to save a contact. So if I type S, all right, go ahead to save your contacts. Enter X to exit the application or S to save your contact. Let's see what happens if I type X. All right, exiting application, and the application stops running. So I'm going to run this again so that we have a better understanding of how this application is supposed to work. Enter X to exit the application or S to save a contact. So when I enter S, what I should have is a presentation that allows me to type a contact detail. And that part of the code has not been added. That is why we keep saying enter X to exit the application or S to save a contact. So what we're going to add right now is the part that allows you to type a contact's name, first name, last name, and a contact's phone number. So that's the next part of the application that we're going to add. So I'm going to exit the application by typing X, enter, exiting application. So very quickly, what we're going to do is we're going to define a bunch of variables. We will define a bunch of variables that will help us collect data. Yes, so the first variable we're going to define is first underscore name. You should be familiar with things like this. And then input. Let's just say first name. So this is where you're going to collect data for the person's, the contact's first name. And then we will create three others like this. Change the message. This is going to be last. And this is going to be phone. All right, and then we also change the variable names. We don't want to get things mixed up. and then this is going to be phone. All right. Okay. So we will very quickly. All right, now we've been able to create three variables that will help us collect information. Of course, they will be able to collect information because we have the input function that is going to require the user to type in a person's first name, last name, and phone number. And these information, these pieces of information will be stored in these variables, and then we can do something to these bits of information. So let's just return to the console to run the script and see what changes we've made. All right, contact saver. This application allows you to save your contacts. Enter X to exit the application or S to save a contact. So when we type X, S, all right, good. It's going to require us to type the first name of the person. Let's say James, last name, Baldwin, phone 080126745, and all that. Enter. It says go ahead to save your contacts. Go ahead to save your contacts. Enter X to exit, and again and again. So what is actually happening is we've got to the point where we can actually enter our contacts details. What we have to now do is save these contacts details and then get feedback to the user as to whether the contacts have been saved or not. So what we have to do, let me exit this. So what we will have to do is we will have to confirm if details have been provided before we can go ahead to save contacts. I'm going to remove that message from there and place it here. So we need to be able to confirm whether the user has actually typed something in. We don't want to save a blank, we don't want to save a blank contact. So we need to be able to verify that the user has typed in something. So we're going to use an if statement to check if first underscore name is not an empty string. We know that this is not something that you very familiar with, but this is how the code is going to work. So we're checking if first underscore name is not an empty string. We're also going to check if last underscore name is not an empty string. And then we're going to check if phone is also not empty. All right. So what we're actually saying is if first name has been provided and last name has been provided and phone contact has been provided, then we can go ahead to save. But if any one of these is blank, the application is not going to go ahead to save. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a file. So I'll create a variable and use a Python function called open to open or create a file called contacts. This time around, it's going to be a txt file, contacts the txt, and I have to specify the mode, which is A. A means append. And then I can write into this file using file.write. What am I going to write into this file? What am I going to write in this file? I'm going to write the contact into this file. So what I'll be having here is, I think I'm going to have, okay, I'm just going to have the details first, underscore name. All right, you're going to be seeing some notations that you may not understand, or you just have to go ahead to do it this way. We will explain all these others much later. Plus phone. Okay, I also need to add, yes, this is okay. This phone plus, okay, I won't add that yet. So what we have is we're going to be able to save first name, last name, and the phone contacts. I do not think I need this here. All right. Okay. And finally, we're going to print a message, contact saved. Yes, this is going to be the last message, and then the whole thing is going to start again. So very quickly, let me run the application again. I hope there are no errors. Enter S to save contact. Go ahead to save your contacts. First name, James. Last name. Okay, so we are going to run this application again, and we will be able to observe the differences now. We've been able to add other functionalities that will help our application do what we want it to do. So I'm going to type S and hit enter. It requires the first name, James, last name, Baldwin, and then phone number 098, any number, enter, and it says contact saved. Enter X to exit the application or S to save a contact. So this application is going to keep running until we decide that we are done saving our contacts. And that is when we type X instead of S. So if we want to keep saving contacts, then we have to type S. And it's going to say, go ahead to save your contacts. And then we enter another contact, John Babatunde, 0812348 and all that, and it says contact saved again and says enter X to exit the application or S to save a contact. So the application is going to keep running until we decide to type in an X. All right, so what we're going to do now is take a look at this piece of code here where it says file open contacts.tx. All right, it should have been a txt. So what has happened is that a file has been created called contacts.tx, the txt. So that's the file we've created, and that's the file where we've been saving the contacts we've been typing. So what we're going to do is return to command prompt, clear the screen, view this. All right, so you discover that we have a file called contacts.tx that has been created and that contains the data that we have been saving. So what we're simply going to do is open that file to see what we have there. All right, good. So as you can see, we have our contacts saved in this file. Of course, it's not looking pretty, but definitely we have our contacts saved. And definitely would want our contacts to be saved in a much more organized manner. For example, we would want each contact to occupy a single line and not like this. So I'm going to delete everything in this file, and then I am going to make an adjustment here in the code that's going to help us break the line. So it's going to be plus backslash and n. So this is going to help us break the line after a contact is saved. For each save, the line is going to be broken so that the next contact can be saved in the next line. So let's quickly run the application again and see how the change is going to apply. S, first name, James Baldwin, 081, just type numbers. Okay, S again, John Bradley, phone number. Okay, contact saved, enter X to exit. So let's exit our application and then we return here. I'm going to open that file now. Okay, this is the one we're going to work with. All right, so we have James Baldwin, we have John Bradley. So the contacts are being saved in this file. So this is our contact saver. Try this out, see that it works. If there are other things that occur to you, also try to experiment and see how you can get things done. In the next video, we're going to look at our contact saver in a graphical user interface application. That's going to be a totally different workout. So get ready.